Hey, kid!
Yeah?
Are you looking for something exciting to read while you enjoy some sugary cereal?
Yeah!
Then grab a copy of Mighty Mascots from Alterna Comics! Born from the ashes of a disastrous 3D printing accident, 8 living advertisements have banded together to right the wrongs of this world. Led by a former child star, these unlikely heroes are freaks to some, but you will know them as the Mighty Mascots. The miniseries is 3 issues full color and printed on glorious newsprint. This is the fun superhero series that you didn't know you needed. Created and written by Keith Gleason, featuring artwork by Ian Morianto and colors by Anton Vandy.
Oh, I can't wait for more!
Mighty Mascots is part of your complete breakfast and comic book reading experience. Only from Alterna Comics.
Hey, everybody! It's another Wednesday night. I was paying attention to the private chat there, and I was messing up.
It's all good.
Hey guys, so this is Keith Gleason, creator of the Mighty Mascots. With me, as always, my co-host and good friend Johnny C. What's going on, buddy?
It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. We're back at it again.
Yeah, that's right, man. So much stuff going on.
This week, we don't have the back-to-back episodes, but that's okay because we have a really special guest, and I'm happy to be able to bring him in.
Oh yeah, definitely, dude. Before that, you had mentioned to me earlier that you had a few things that you wanted to shout out at the beginning of the show tonight.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, we always want to follow up with guests that were previously on.
Yep.
And in the last 2 weeks, we've had guests that have had Kickstarters that hit today.
Really?
Today they hit 100%. So one of the first ones is, John Celestri, known for 70s artwork, for the first iteration of Boba Fett in the Star Wars universe. He had Bloodwing Angel Chronicles. It was the non-binary superhero angel comic that you never know you needed, but you do. that just hit 100% today. It funded, just to let John know, hey, I know I got to fix my payment, but don't worry, payday's tomorrow. We'll get that payment fixed for you, and I can't wait to get those perks in the mail.
Awesome. And then we should be getting that soon, right? Because he said the book was finished pretty much. He's already working on the next one, which is awesome.
Yep. So there's going to be a very short turnaround time there, according to John, when we spoke to him on that episode a few weeks back. You can just look at our back catalog, and he's within like the last 4 episodes, I believe.
Oh, awesome. Perfect. And then what was the other ones you wanted to shout out?
Well, so another one was Advent Dark. That was the book that I wrote with illustrations by Jared Brown. That was his original story. I just wrote the script for it. He hit 100%, and he's coming in on I think actually it might actually be over by now, but he was in the last few hours of the campaign today, and it's over 100%. It's hit. So if you last chance to grab a copy of the book, if the campaign's still active, you might have to scroll up to see, but not too sure. Maybe not. I think it could have actually finished.
I think it's finished.
Yeah, I did finish.
Yep, he made it. He went well.
$100
to spare.
Yep, absolutely.
And then you said you had another one you wanted to mention, right?
Last but not least, a good friend of mine, Kyle Kaminsky. I've seen him at C2E2 at San Diego Comic-Con. He's got Sophia Saturn. He's releasing the complete 1 through 5 series right now. They went live today. There's 30 days to go, and they're already almost at the $1,000 mark. So they're just almost under 50% right now.
I've seen this somewhere.
I don't know
if maybe you tweeted it or something back in the past, or
I could have.
I've seen this before. Yeah.
So Kyle's also done a really cool book called The Resistance, which is a lot like your 90s Image kind of superhero book. It's awesome. It's such a great book. Kyle's such an awesome comic creator. He keeps people honest. I love him. Good dude. Check out his book.
I didn't bring up, but I'm going to do it right now. Something I wanted to mention as well. Tomorrow, Don Chin is launching Beard Zerker. So
Nice.
I'm involved in this book. I actually am doing the lettering for this book. So I think I'm
Nice.
doing a show with Don. I think I saw him in the audience as well. Hey, Don.
Hey, Don. Thanks for joining.
I think we're doing a show tomorrow night somewhere. I'm joining the whole team, and we're gonna be talking about this book. It looks fun. I've already lettered the 3 pages, and right away I'm already getting chuckles from the screenplay, the script and the sight gags and everything. It's a really fun book so far, so I can't wait.
Don's always good for a good parody comic.
Oh, definitely. So and then I'm excited about tonight's guest. It's a guy that I've been on his show a couple times now. He has a YouTube channel called Critical Blast. He's also an author, not necessarily a comic book writer, but he's written some cool pulp characters, which most people will know. And then he's also got a logistics program that we want to get into tonight, where he's helping, creators that are overseas get better shipping rates to people in other countries and things like that. So I definitely want to get into the ins and outs of that, because if you're running a campaign, especially if you're in the UK or even over here and you're shipping over to the UK, the shipping rates are insane.
It's insane. Yeah. Most people commonly omit the international audience as a result because of that. But if there was a better way, you're leaving money on the table, but not going international. There's plenty of people overseas who are American or expats or things like that love to read comics, that would love to be able to support a Kickstarter, but most Kickstarters from the US won't go international. And the rare few that do.
Yeah, and I don't know all the odds and ends about it. He can definitely explain it to us. But all right, without further ado, let me bring in Mr. RJ Carter from Critical Blast. Hey, RJ, good to see you again.
It's a pleasure to be here with the Baron of Branded Breakfast and the best second banana in the business.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I know we scheduled this a long time ago, maybe 2 months out or something like that. It's just channel's been going crazy,
well, that's good. I mean,
it's a good problem, It's just we're getting there.
I sit there every morning and pull up, my YouTube stats. I'm like, can I redline this any further up? It's like,
you're getting there though, huh?
I'm over 3,600 hours as of this morning.
I'm like, monetized. Yes, you're getting close. I know you have 13 or 1,400 subscribers now or something that?
I'm over 1,300 and grows. Nice. It doesn't drop, so I'm happy with that.
No, that's great.
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
And so I've been,
we always start the show I know you're not a comic book writer, but you are a writer.
Yes.
So what was that story or that movie or TV show that you saw when you were young that put you on this path that you wanted to be a writer? Is there something that you can point to that kind of
I don't know if anything made me want to be a writer, because the first thing that I wrote that anything was done with was in first grade.
Okay.
I wrote a play. I was, small elementary school, and I had seen the format for plays in a book somewhere, obviously. I was reading, by the way, at 4 years old, and I didn't know that nobody else could. I didn't say anything about it because it was I thought everybody could read. It wasn't a big deal to me. I learned to read off the comic books that my barber would give me. I grew up.
So did you ever have your IQ tested? That's pretty amazing. That you're reading books at 4 years old. I think I was still pooping myself.
I was in the gifted program at our school, which was basically a reason to keep you after school to do extra work.
No kidding. That's awesome. I never knew that. But that's great.
It was I learned it all off comic books, and it was in first grade when, I don't know if you remember, the teacher used to sit up there with the big plastic board or the big cardboard sign with big words on it. And she'd read it out. And I was like, and I'm done. I'm ahead of her. She's going slow. So I'm like, I don't know, scraping stuff off my shoe or playing with my pocket lamp.
Bored by it, right?
Yeah. So she's like, I look up, she's in my face. She's like, would you like to read this to the rest of the class? And I'm like, I'm 6, man. I don't get sarcasm. I'm like, you want me to do something? You're the teacher. Okay. Plants produce energy through a process called photosynthesis, in which the leaves absorb sunlight into something called chlorophyll. As like note to the parents, back up to 2nd grade reading. And I was like, but yeah, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, Batman fought poison ivy, and that's how she grows her vines to take over everything. And the Flash fought the Floronic Man, and he does all the same stuff. So, I learned all my science and all my reading from DC Comics.
That's awesome.
That's great. That's so awesome.
That's great. So that kind of put you. So you said in the was it the 1st grade you wrote a play?
I wrote a play. We were the Tilden Tigers.
Okay.
The basketball team there, and I wrote. I knew in true comic book geek form. I knew everything about comics. I knew nothing about sports.
Okay. Same here.
So I wrote this play that was like, the team was losing. We were always down by 1, and what would happen? Well, right at the last second, a big tall guy wearing a Tilden Tigers uniform would run onto the court, grab the ball, and put it through the basket. I'm like, like that would count. That would be a point. It would work. And they had the 8th grade basketball team play it out, and the janitor we had was this 7 foot tall if he was an inch. They had him play the mystery tiger. He came in with this mask on, and he grabbed the ball and put it in the net. And I was like, wow, that was like my first produced work.
Almost. Yeah, seriously. And the fact that they took it and actually, acted it out and everything, that's amazing. Like,
yeah.
Did that give you like a big head in the 1st grade?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
I was going to say, it's very awesome that they noticed and harbored your creativity so young. Most people, they wouldn't even pay mind. They would say, oh, he just has a very overactive imagination, especially around that era. I mean, we're probably all around the same age. So like,
it was 1973. So
well, there you go. Yeah. They would have been, oh, he's got a good imagination. Right. But they actually recognized that you had creative talent, and that's awesome. That's so cool. You can't buy that kind of recognition sometimes.
Oh, no. And it had an impact, because I was like, I went into 8th grade, skipped a lot of years in between. And our principal was also our 8th grade teacher, and he wanted everyone in the class had to write a composition every week. He didn't care what it was on, but you had to write something. So, it's like every Thursday, because it was due on Friday, every Thursday afternoon, everybody had all the encyclopedias out, because all they were doing, that's how you wrote reports back in that time was Google was in a book.
Right. Wikipedia was filed on a bookshelf.
Yeah. and you opened it up, and kids would basically say, here's a subject, and then literally translate the first 5 sentences or the first 5 paragraphs onto paper. There was no writing. So like, I didn't want to do that. So I wrote a story, and it was, I said, okay, if I'm in school for so many weeks here, I got to do one of these every week. I wrote a chapter a week, and it was about this. I set it in World War II. It was in the Black Forest, and first chapter, this explosion. This soldier, is fleeing for his life, and a rocket lands in the Black Forest, and it unearths his coffin, and a vampire steps out. And he's wanting to atone for everything he's done, but he's a vampire. So Sergeant Al U. Card enlists in the U.S. military, and now I've got this vampire fighting in World War II. And there was a new chapter of it every single week, and he had me take it down to the 6th grade class, and I would read it aloud to the class.
Wow.
Awesome.
In fact,
that's amazing.
I don't have it with me here, but I still have those collected manuscripts in a cardboard folder with black tape for a binding that I'd made when I
Where did you grow up?
Awesome.
Like, where was this?
I grew up in Southern Illinois, teeming metropolis of Tilden, 900 people. And it was right next door to where I had to be bused to high school in Sparta. Now, the thing about Sparta, Illinois, are you either familiar with Sparta, Illinois?
No, I've heard of it, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It's on the west side of the state, is it not? If I remember correctly,
It's southern west side. It's not as far west as like Metro East for St. Louis and stuff, but yeah, very close.
Right.
But you should, because throughout the 60s and the 70s and all through most of the 80s, every single comic book you ever read was printed at World Color Press in Sparta, Illinois.
Oh, okay.
So, which was why my barber had comic books, because there was no comic shops. there was no need for comic shops. Everyone took home the overprints.
Cool.
If you knew somebody who worked there and you were a comic book geek,
I know, right?
yeah, my LCS was the yard sale circuit.
Yeah. So, that makes a lot of sense because you know what? Independent comics has a really strong running in the Midwest in that kind of belt there. So that makes a lot of sense that a lot of the printing comics are basically ingrained in the culture. It's just not really commonly discussed, it seems like. It just exists and was there.
Yeah, and
I love that.
Like, I was a DC guy, solidly pretty much. But, there was the Marvel stuff. And somewhere around, early 80s, as far as I knew, comic books were like, the four denominations of comics were DC, Marvel, Richie Rich, and Archie. That was it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this stack of comics came home. My dad brought it from a friend that he knew worked there. It's like just a bundle. And I was like, yeah, oh, look, DC Comics presents a couple of these, a couple of those. American Flag. Never heard of
Howard Chaykin.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I never heard of this publisher. And I looked through it and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I know I have to hide it.
Yeah, most of Chaykin's work you have to hide.
Yeah, you do.
Then it was Pacific Comics, Ms. Mystic. Suddenly there was like Captain Canuck. Red Circle was doing The Fly and The Fox. And I was like, my mind was blown. I was loving all this indie. Star Slayer, Mike Grell's Star Slayer and his John Sable freelance.
Yeah, John Sable. I remember that a lot. That was great. Remember the short-lived TV show that was lasted for like 5 episodes?
Yeah, well, they got the whole premise wrong anyway. But.
Yeah, they did. But anyways, I didn't. But that's amazing. Like I'm fascinated with this this gifted stuff. Like I never knew that about you. And did you end up graduating like high school? Like
no.
Like,
no,
you didn't. Okay,
because as much fun as it is to write, I'm also lazy.
Okay.
So the classic underachiever, that was me.
Yeah.
Is like, oh shit, when I show what I can do, it's expected of me.
Yeah.
Don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Take the pressure off.
Yeah. I like to consider that as don't give up the pudding, like prison rules. Once you give up the pudding, once they know that you'll do that, it'll always be expected of you, right?
It's
Exactly.
like
office rules
job,
only.
right?
Exactly. Office rules only work as much as you're required. Don't overwork because that's expected of you. And you're not getting paid for that amount of money.
I don't know if he's watching tonight, but me and my buddy Mike Martone, we used to have a saying at our job. We're like, right here is the bare minimum, and we're gonna be like right here, right here. So we get you. We get where you go.
Absolutely.
So this whole time it seemed like you were writing up through, like here and there in high school and junior
in
high.
college,
and
I serialized the novel when I was in college. I was the editor of the newspaper, so I was able to publish myself. In the middle of the paper there, and it was sort of a science fiction thing about what if the Greek gods were actually aliens from another planet, and all these myths we've got were like translations. So I did this Orpheus and Eurydice thing where Orpheus was just a dick, and he had this gadget where he could control people's minds, and he pretty much took Eurydice for his own, but he started to like her. And then when she's dead, he realizes, okay, well, she's gone, no big deal. I'll deal with it. But he walks past where she died, and there's the snake that bit her. And they're putting her on the raft to send her down the river because that's what you did. You send them down the river to Charon and to Hades. And he picks up the snake, and it's a robot. It's an android snake, which ancient Greeks would know. And he knows it's Hades doing his human experiment things again, and that she's not dead. So it was like take all the existing myths and put a sci-fi angle on them to explain what the writers were trying to relate with the limited knowledge they had as an Earth person of that time.
I like that. Very cool.
I love that.
That's a cool idea.
That's literally the plot of the new Eternals movie. I love
is that. It really?
It is.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so awesome. That's very cool.
You might have a lawsuit on you.
Yeah. Sue the pants off them.
Actually, well, Is that based? I mean, I never read the Eternals from Marvel. Is Jack Kirby's original Eternals like that, or is that stuff they've added since
I
then?
think they're bending it a little bit more towards the MCU. Now, this is me putting my movie preview show hat on. So
Okay.
I'm taking off the ICR hat for a moment, putting on the movie preview hat.
Well, we
So,
all, shake it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So what I've read, spoiler alert, everybody, what I've read about the Eternals is that effectively the Celestials are like the gods that come down and create the deviants that are supposed to regulate basically the people on Earth, right? And then the deviants start getting out of control. So then they invent the Eternals, who actually in turn are robots, or at least in the MCU, they're going to be deemed to be robots. And then they come to realize that they love Earth too, and they have to rebel against.
Sounds actually similar to what the Eternals know about Eternals. Yeah,
right. And then they're basically up against Tiamat, the Celestial, that's gonna basically try to annihilate everything. But I love the whole exactly what RJ said about the oh yeah, X-Force. Oh, it's Don Chen's one.
Don Chen's. Yeah,
X-Force. I love it.
Always plugging Don.
Yeah, absolutely. But with RJ mentioning the snake being robotic, that's literally the same thing that they're doing for Eternals. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, movie preview hat off, ICR hat back on.
So RJ, when did you because I saw that you have an Amazon page. So when did you make the transition to actually, putting out novels?
Being a real writer?
Yeah.
When did the Blue Fairy make me a real boy?
Yes.
I was, it felt like forever. And
now, were you doing the traditional route where you were sending out manuscripts to publishers and things like that, or were you
kind of, sorta? Yeah, I mean, I had the big fat thick North American short story and fiction writers guide, whatever it was called. It was hard to say.
Okay.
But I was participating in zoetrope.com, which was Francis Ford Coppola's magazine, but he had an online workshop thing.
Okay.
And it was basically, he's like, hey, you can submit a story and people will review it, but first you have to review 5 stories. And there was you left comments, there was a discussion forum and everything, and you got to know all the people who were. You made a group of friends. It's just like this YouTube channel thing. You start seeing all the same people all the time. You go on their shows, you know them now. And I would submit stories through there. Basically, we were his slush editors. Nothing ever made it out of the workshop into the magazine, like was the dream. But I would send stuff from that point forward, and eventually I had enough that I felt good about this novella that I'd written, and I started shopping it around. And it wasn't until 2000 that Telos, a publisher in England, bid on my first published work, which was Alice's Journey Beyond the Moon.
Oh, cool.
Which was actually name checked by Neil Gaiman on his blog, because they sent him a copy. He had done something with them, and they knew that I had picked the title off the shelf of a Sandman issue.
Interesting.
There was an issue where the librarian, Lucian, is taking you through the Library of Dreams, and he's like, hey, here's all the books that were never written. And I was looking at all the spines and the artwork, and one of them was Alice's Journey Beyond the Moon. I think it was technically Behind the Moon, and I didn't get it right, but so Neil said, it's the first time I recall one of the books escaping Lucian's library. And I said, yeah, and copy, paste, send that to Banner Buzz, and that's on the banner that sits behind me at Booth's. It doesn't matter whether he said he liked the book or not. He mentioned the book, and there's his big old name underneath the quote.
Yeah, that's a quote. That's a quote.
It's a quote. People walk past, they see Neil Gaiman,
that's
they stop.
A brilliant idea too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really brilliant to take a title from there. But did you take the title first and then make the story, or did you have the story?
I took the title first.
Okay.
Well, I knew that I had wanted to do something with Alice for a while.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I had read Martin Gardner, I think. He did this annotated Alice, and it's really just the first 2 books, the only 2 books. Alice's adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass and what Alice found there. But what that book really details is the fact that in the footnotes, it was footnoted all over the place because Alice was a real person. Alice Little, she was the middle child of the three little sisters, and it was this July 4th in 1860 something that Charles Dodgson and Reverend Duckworth took them on this boat ride down the Isis River for a picnic, and he had to keep the kids entertained. And that's why, the book opens with the poem, all in the golden afternoon, full leisurely we glide, while both our oars by little hands with little skill by little arms are plied, and little hands make vain pretense our wanderings to guide. Little was the pun on little, and he was basically saying this is the day of the picnic, and they're whining, they want a story, so he told them stories. And Wonderland was one of them, and Alice begged him to write it down, which he did. But they enjoyed the story because everything in it was an in-joke. It was a poke at their friends. It was something that was going on in the news or a parody of a song that they knew back then. He was like the world's first Weird Al Yankovic.
Love it.
So I wanted to make sure that whatever I wrote was going to be presented as though he wrote it. And the story is written in his style as close as I could mimic. And then off to the margins were these same annotations about, this is what was going on in his life and her life at the time. And I opened it up with this preface saying, we were doing, renovations at the Christ Church Library in Oxford, where Charles Dodgson was a library during these years. And we moved some shelves and we found some papers had fallen behind them. And there were some mathematicals and some doodles and this manuscript that we, presumed that he was writing for her engagement announcement to Reginald Hargreaves. Well, so it was a fictional story surrounded by real footnotes, the real things that happened in his life, wrapped in a lie that says that, we found the thing.
Oh, I like that. It's very
and when
cool.
When I got it published, of course I tell the local paper because that's what you do. You're a big shot now. You call the local paper. And he got a copy of the book for review, and he met me at the library. We did to do the reviews on it. And the very first question out of his mouth was, so when they found this manuscript, why did they call you? And I was like, oh, you just throw all your questions away, man. Because thank you, appreciate it. But because I strove so much for authenticity, I actually had the
that's actually good though. Like that's good that he couldn't even tell.
He couldn't tell. The editor was kicking it back. He's like, you got some bad grammar here because it's like didn't. I spelled it DID apostrophe N apostrophe T. He's like, you need to fix these things. I'm like, yeah. Here's Lewis Carroll's original manuscript for Alice's Journey Beyond, or for Alice in Wonderland. And I highlighted, how he wrote it. And he put an apostrophe there for every character it was missing. And I was like, oh, never mind.
That's awesome. And so after that, did you have a contract with them, or was it more like?
I didn't have a contract with them, but they had another book series they were doing. They were doing the novels of Doctor Who at the time. They had the license for that.
Cool.
And,
did you get to write one of those or no?
Which doctor was it at the time? Do you know?
I don't know which one it was at the time. It would have been around 2001 because they were just getting ready to start television up again. So BBC basically said, you've got the license. We're not renewing the license with you because we want it back now. We're going to be doing stuff. So, British law being what it is, if you create a character in somebody else's sandbox, that character is yours. So the very last Doctor Who book that they did, they created two time traveling characters, Honoré Lechasseur and Emily Blandish. Okay. And Honoré was a Black American living in post-World War II London, and he had this capability of seeing timelines. If he, it's kind of like those seeing eye puzzles that you stare at. You see a picture comes out. Yeah. He would see a timeline of a person, going backward and forward in time. Emily Blandish appeared in an exploded building wearing her pajamas and had no memory where she came from. She was from the future, didn't know it. Doctor Who put them together on purpose. But she could basically, if the TLDR is that if they touch each other, he watches the timeline and they think of the same thing, they travel that timeline, like Wonder Twin powers activate. So they had adventures in time with their Time Hunter series that they kicked off. And I was, reading these and I was like, no one had mentioned that, a Black man living in London at that time period with the name Honoré Lechasseur, who is an American, who is always talking about how he struggled to speak perfect British, so he sounds like Home Office. Well, he's doing that so that people quit thinking he's French, because he's obviously Cajun. He's Creole. And I wrote this. I said, can I play with this story? So that was the second to the last book in the Time Hunter series was The Sideways Door, where I had them encounter a person who had no timeline. And he was, off his nut, alcoholic, post-World War I, PTSD kind of thing. Well, he had no timeline because he was popping back and forth between parallel timelines. And it was the first time they didn't go up or down, they went around, and they ended up in a parallel timeline where the Honoré Lechasseur and Emily Blandish there have absolutely no qualms whatsoever about amending the timeline for their own benefit.
Okay.
Cool.
And they have to keep fixing it because they don't know why they have to keep fixing the timeline until they meet our Honoré and
The
Emily.
reason why. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, there's
cool.
a mirror. And what happens when you see a mirror? Well, you find an imperfection and you fix it. So the universe has a mirror and it keeps conforming to itself. So
I like that.
their plan is to get to the other universe and make it similar to theirs so that it quits.
Oh, very cool.
I love it. It's very heady sci-fi. That's very cool. And I love that you picked something very specific, like a minor little detail, and you decided to expand upon it and make it like, the whole thing. I think that's very cool too. It's a very cool
Well,
story.
I wanted to play in New Orleans for a while too, because, they never talked about his history as a character. I was like, well, that's because his father disappeared and he thinks he was abandoned. His mother was murdered by the Royal Street Vampires. I just pulled all this lore out of New Orleans history that would have been, would have happened before 1951 to, make it possible.
Sure. And Louisiana is in fact just steeped with all types of rich, deep lore, mythological stuff, just supernatural stuff, even just the cool pirate stuff like Jean Lafitte, like all that stuff is just super interesting, super cool. I love that. And
the Royal Street Vampires were real. They were a serial killer gang that would capture people and drain their blood and drink it.
Wild.
Awesome.
It's so wild.
Before we go any further, let's say hi to everybody out there tonight. We got Roland with us tonight.
Roland, what's up?
Ara joining
vote
us.
for Ara.
Yes, I saw that. What is that all about?
I don't know. I just said somebody say
Don
I'd
Shin.
vote for you.
Don,
yep.
Joining us tonight. Sky Basler. I don't know who that is.
You coming to Fitchburg, Mass, kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, kid.
Eric, who was on last week.
Yep.
So many people tonight. It was great. And then my wife, of course, sharing out links for everybody. And then Nightlight too. Awesome. So it's good stacked audience tonight. So let me actually share your author page here. I was looking this over. So I have bought the Remo Williams one, this Bully Pulpit, which I think is the first one you did.
That was the first one. Well, kind of, sort of.
Okay. Yeah,
More
I want to talk about this, like, because I love Remo Williams, like, ever since I saw that movie, and I love the comics that Marvel put out, and I've read the first novel, I think, which is just called
Created the Destroyer.
Yeah. And it is something about that character I really enjoy. So how did you get involved writing Remo Williams books?
I was doing reviews for different websites and migrating along, and I was working for a site called The Trades, and I was doing book reviews. A friend of mine knew I was reviewing books. He said, "Hey, you're going to review the new Destroyer book." This would be the time when the Destroyer was being published by Tor. They had signed a new contract to do 4 books.
Okay.
And my response to him was like, "What's the Destroyer?" And he showed me, and I went out and I got the books, got review copies. And I loved it. I loved the humor and the satire and the smart-assness of it. But I also looked at the character setup and like, there's something familiar about this that I could really play with. Too bad it's a franchise series, and you can't just go off and write stuff like that. But very shortly after, More Blood was announced, which was the second time they had put out a call for fans to do basically authorized fan fiction in an anthology. I was like, well, let's go to town with this now, because I'll just.
So this was like an anthology of Remo Williams stories.
Absolutely.
Oh,
that's
cool.
that's my first Remo story. It's in the very middle of the book. It's called Fool's Paradise, and what it is it's Remo and Chun being sent to a very Gothic-like city on the eastern seaboard. Okay. That is watched over by a vigilante who dresses like Dracula. It's there's the commissioner and the car, and it's just like totally de-trademarked everything, but it's literally Remo Williams and Batman.
Nice. I love it.
That's awesome.
That's the first story you did for.
That's the first story I did, and I was like, okay, well, that was fun. I got that out of my system. And Devin Murphy, who's Warren Murphy's son, reached out and said, yeah, we got your story submission. We like it. We think you got the voice down for these characters. It's like, oh, well, great, cool. He said, yeah, we want to publish it. I'm like, great, I get a copy of the book, right? Yeah. Would you like to take over the franchise for a while? I'm like,
oh my God.
You're like, okay.
Yeah. Like, let me think. Yes. Now, we're talking about the same Remo Williams that they did a movie of, right? The same Remo Williams are doing another movie of, right? I would love to have my name attached to Remo Williams movies or books when the movie comes out, if it ever breaks out of development.
Yeah, because it's been in development hell now for a few years, right?
A remake, I heard, right? They're trying to remake the
Shane
property
Black
or whatever.
was working on it.
Shane Black's the director.
After
there's a
Iron Man
screenplay.
3? Yeah, I started hearing about it after Iron Man 3 was so popular, and then
I think because his Predator movie failed so badly that
it sucks because Remo Williams is such a cool character, and I think Shane Black is the right person to do it.
Especially if you watch The Nice Guys.
Oh yeah, so I was gonna say Nice Guys kind of has the same vibe. In tone of
Kiss Bang Bang. Too.
Yeah. Oh, like even Iron Man 3, it kind of has that vibe a little bit of the tone of those type of novels,
Yeah, definitely.
The humor, just kind of like the little bit of like gritty, hard boiled, but also kind of lighthearted in the process. Very like humorous a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, if you've read the first one, then it really doesn't get into its stride until book 3.
Okay. But the thing I love, the dynamics between the two, and then just the pulp kind of like villains and like settings and everything. It's
always over the top. And that's what makes it so hard to write now.
I believe it because there's there's over 150 books, right?
153 books out now.
Jesus.
And the thing is, Warren was always doing, and James Mulaney and a bunch, and Will Murray and all these great writers were on it. But they were finding things in the news and in pop culture to satirize. And it's like over the last 5 years, reality is a satire. And I'm like, how do you make fun of this stuff when it's already ridiculous?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard too because like there's many times where there'd be things that happen currently that I'm like, oh, this would be a perfect satire of this, but then I also realize like society might be a little bit too sensitive for that nowadays too. You know what I mean? And that's kind of hard.
You say screw that when you're writing a Remo story.
Right.
That's somebody.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, I guess that's the audience you think of, right? When you're like, okay, I'm going to write this story. Well, I'm writing for a Remo Williams audience. You know that what type of audience, what type of licenses you can take with the things that you say and the things that you write and whatever, yada yada.
Yeah.
But
how long does it take? Like, how many Remo books have you written? I see at least 3 on your.
There are 3 that have been published. There are 2 more manuscripts that Devin has. He wants another manuscript from me to put in before those 2 manuscripts. So that's what I'm, been kind of stumped up against right now because everything I'm working is like, I just don't like. I'll get like several chapters in. I'm like, no, I don't like that one. I'll set it to the side, and maybe some other day. So I've got some things that I'm outlining. You thought COVID would have been like, hey, nothing to do but this.
No, well, I mean, it depends, like sometimes you're, like COVID, it's either like you're either doing nothing or you're really creative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like we've had those like ups and downs.
And we've talked about that in the show in the past. RJ, did you find struggles? And do you mind sharing if you did at the beginning of COVID? Creatively, that is.
Not really creatively. I mean, it's just I was fortunate that my job sent me home to work from home. IT, I was just dialed in, which actually, being home the whole time, it gave me more writing time because I didn't have time to drive. But at the same time, driving is when I sits and I thinks.
Same. I think a lot, and stuff comes to you when you're driving. It's funny, like it's just or if you're showering, sometimes
shower. I was just gonna say, chronically, all my best ideas happen in the shower, and more often than not, when I get out, before I'm even like towel dry, I'm at the keyboard, like gotta put this down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It does happen.
I would come home with my shirt pocket just full of sticky notes, with things scribbled on it, and then they're like just big pile. And I still do the same thing. I mean, I'm coming up with. For some reason, I'm thinking that the next Destroyer book that I want to do is going to be called Injection Site, and it's
like the title already.
It's going to be it's going to be vaccination involved somehow.
Biological warfare, maybe like some hidden biological warfare.
Yeah.
What you could do is just take those QAnon theories and make those plots
and make them real. That's the thing. Yeah, that would be great.
They're completely real in the Destroyer world.
Yeah, exactly.
The biggest challenge I had with what's been published.
That stuff's perfect.
Can you imagine him kicking open a door and somebody's prepping a baby for a meal? That would be amazing. I'd read that. I'd read that book.
That would be a chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
Well, no, because all the Remo books from number 3 on, it's like it's there's a formula. So the first chapter is like some innocent person's going to die, and who in the world is ever going to discover that the reason they were killed was so that the government would never find out that they were turning your brains to cheese. Who would it be? And then chapter 2 is always, without fail, his name was Remo, and there's just something that he's doing right there. So chapter 2 would be him busting in the door and there's a baby being served.
Yes. So now we've all seen the Remo Williams movie with Fred Ward. Who do you guys think would be a great Remo Williams for this update? That's a tough one.
I kind of have an idea in the back of my head, but I want to see you guys.
You got Johnny.
I'll let you guys go first.
I have nobody in mind because
I'm thinking somebody maybe like a John Hamm, because he's got a little bit of comedic chops and he can be kind of serious. I don't know how his action, he might be too old as well, but you need somebody I think on like that who can do like a little bit of funny.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson. Yeah, no.
I was gonna say they also can't be too handsome either, right?
Yeah, right.
There's got to be a certain level. So ideally, I would say Chris Pratt, but not like ripped Chris Pratt. More of like somewhere in between Andy from Parks and Rec and Star-Lord. That's Fred Ward. Yeah, that's the Fred Ward.
Because Remo's just this slender guy with abnormally thick wrists, and he doesn't look like anything threatening.
Right. Yeah. And
See, I never cast Remo.
What's that?
I always cast Smith, Harold Smith.
Yeah,
because that was who Wilford Brimley played. Totally wrong characterization for Smith in the books. Smith is just this sallow gray character who's taciturn and he always looks like he sucked on a lemon. I'm like, if they don't sit on it too long, they'll be able to get J.K. Simmons to play that role.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, that would be great.
Oh man, I envision like the teacher from Whiplash is like kind of like the attitude, the tone,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's awesome.
Stuff. Have you ever read any of those, Johnny?
Yeah. So actually, I was just going to say earlier, and we kind of got sidetracked, is that I actually first started reading Mac Bullen, the Executioner.
Okay.
And then when I got a love for that, I was like, oh, wait, there's this other series of books. And I read a couple of them a while back. We're talking about grade school. And then I made the connection that the movie was Fred Ward and all that. And I'm like, oh my God, that was that from that. And so I do have a little bit of a conceived notion. Walt Goggins would be a good one.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go.
If you dig around on YouTube, you can actually find the television pilot.
And that's the one with what's his face? Malcolm. Is it Malcolm? No, not Malcolm McDowell. Roddy McDowell, right?
Roddy McDowell. Yes, that was the television pilot.
Wow!
Yeah, whoever they had to play Remo had hair from like a flock of seagulls. I mean, it was like it was John Stamos with extra body.
Yeah. I don't think I ever saw it, but I remember seeing it at conventions as like those bootleggers always had like those TV shows you never seen anywhere, and I remember
it only came out once and it never kicked off.
Yeah, and I was like, Rowdy McDowell. Wow, that's a wild choice.
As Chun.
Yeah, I know. That's a wild choice.
That is a wild choice. I remember picking up, there's a Human Target series with Rick Springfield.
Yes.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was like, what? This existed?
yeah, there's two of them, right? There was another, the TV show that came out years later.
I liked the second one they did. Yeah, the second one they did, I actually liked a little bit better. I just like the idea
do the movie of the night. And then the series kicked off after that.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, it was a TV movie because that's how they did things back in the day, right? It was like a TV movie introduction, and then there was your series, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes you'd get the same actor, and sometimes you wouldn't.
Right.
Like Rick Springfield did. Was it Forever Night? And he was the vampire cop.
Yep, that's right. And then they got the blonde guy for the TV series.
Yeah, Geraint Wynn Davies for the TV series.
That's right.
I love that show. And yes, it was Roddy McDowell as Chun. I mean, they not only did they, Asian wash Chun when they had Joel Grey.
They did in the original movie too, right? Because the guy
Joel Grey played him in the movie. Joel Grey,
yeah.
And then it was Roddy McDowell. It's like, we're following the Charlie Chan tradition all the way down.
Yeah. I was going to say Charlie Chan or I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but they
Mr. Moto,
the murder mystery movie that had Peter Sellers as the Charlie Chan spoof or whatever. Or do you know what I'm talking about? And it was it had Peter Sellers in the Asian getup. It had Columbo as like the hard-boiled detective, and they're basically all in one. Alec Guinness is in it as well, and they basically was one night murder mystery dinner, and that was another example of like different cultural imbalanced roles and things like that. But hey, that was a whole different time,
Yeah. Can't get away with it so much now.
Yeah, definitely not. Unless you're Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, I think that was the last time.
That was the last time.
I'm just a dude playing a dude who's a dude.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
How often do they release one of the Remo Williams books? Is it like once a year?
Well, no, because it's been a while since the last one came out, and that's all on me.
Okay.
But,
so it's more of like when the writer gets it done, and then...
yeah. There used to be 4 a year.
Okay. Yeah, that's crazy.
That was when Warren and Richard Sapir were just like slapping it into a typewriter and kicking it out, and next please. They had just a head full of stories, and I'm sure once my lottery ticket comes in and I don't have to go to work anymore and I just sit here all day, I'll probably still be just as slow.
Look at George R.R. Martin. That guy's doing anything but writing.
Yeah.
And he's got a couple of books to finish.
And he hasn't done shit during this quarantine.
Yeah, he goes, I ain't going to Comic-Con until the books are done. What do I see next year at Comic-Con?
Yeah. Well, he's like, hey, Robert Jordan didn't have to finish.
Yeah, right. I agree. Kolchak needs more love too.
Kolchak,
there was a comic going for a while. There was a comic publisher, I think Moonstone, that was putting out newer Kolchak stories, but I think they've kind of gone away.
There was a remake series about maybe 10 years back. Could have been earlier.
But yeah, I agree. Like that would be they should bring that back now. I think that would be great now.
But that's also a great example of an actor embodying a character so well. It's hard to see that character as anybody else too, right?
Yeah.
Because if you look back at that the father from Christmas Story. There, his name escapes me, but he
Darren
was
McGavin.
yes,
Yeah.
he was so good in
He was.
Kolchak that it's tough to they had to make adjacent type of stories. They couldn't remake it. They had to make like Millennium. They couldn't make the remake of it because he was just so good in that role. And even when they did make a remake, it fell flat.
Yeah. And
kind
he
of
did
tough. It's like whoever's going to try to take over for Iron Man, which is going to be impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Or whoever's going to have to take over for Deadpool eventually, that will be impossible.
Yes, I agree.
And yet they reboot Spider-Man every 5 years. So
Yeah,
and it works. Yeah, and it works. I don't know. Who knows?
So RJ, how did you? So after, so obviously you've been doing this right along. How did Critical Blast come along?
I was doing the reviews for the trades,
Okay.
and I'd been doing that for like 15 years. I had been writing reviews for another site. It was another universe at the time because they were paying, except that they weren't paying enough, and sometimes the checks didn't work. So I quit doing that, and I was on a movie site called the Hollywood Stock Exchange, just playing an online game. And in the forums, they talked about, I think it was Neil Gaiman. I was like, yeah, I did an interview with Neil Gaiman for American Gods, and he said this and this. And somebody private DM'd me and said, hey, is that published anywhere? I was like, no, not anymore. Like, you want to publish it here? We don't pay, but well, at least you tell me up front you don't pay. I'm fine.
Yeah, right.
So I started writing movie reviews for him, and I was like, how is this done? He's like, well, people just go see a movie they want to see, and then they write a review. I'm like, yeah, but I'm pretty sure, the newspapers don't pay for their tickets and stuff like that. He's like, find out what you can and go with it. So I kind of just took over the media relations director position at the place and made phone calls and said, I work for this site. And you could hear the keyboard tapping away and said, validating, yes, it's a site. And like, here, your tickets are on their way. It's like, oh, I wonder if that works for DVDs. I wonder if that works for books. I wonder if that works for music.
Yeah.
And it was like everything was just coming in. I hadn't bought a DVD in years. I got the entire library of several television shows that came in season by season. Never bought a Harry Potter book in my life.
Did you ever run into any scrutiny over like, oh, well, you don't have X amount of analytics, or, you don't have that many likes on your page, or
only from Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes is the only one to give you a hard time?
Yeah.
I hate Rotten Tomatoes. I wish Rotten Tomatoes would go away.
I don't even care anymore.
They're owned by Warner Brothers, so it's just like, how can you trust that?
Yeah.
I'm always like astounded that people just can't decide stuff for themselves.
Yeah. It's funny to read a reviewer because some reviewers, they don't know how to not write a biased review, right? Or a review or they've become so jaded with their job that they forget that some movies are meant to just be like fun. It could be stupid and dumb. You can walk into it not having to expect like anybody who really goes into Godzilla versus King Kong expecting some really heady shit, don't expect, and if you do get that, you're lucky, right? But don't expect that, and just enjoy it for the.
But they're judging
monster
it like on that same level.
Yeah, they're trying to call it Apocalypse Now, and you can't put apples to oranges like that. Yeah, exactly.
The mise en scène of the main characters.
Yeah, you're like I don't agree with the philosophy of the monkey.
I was unsure which one was the protagonist.
Yeah. So RJ, so when all that stuff started coming in, is that when you started to like, hey, maybe I can make a go at this on my own? Or
the owner at the trades wanted to basically fold it up. He'd had enough with it. He'd been running it for a long time, and I wasn't done. I still had life in me, I thought. So I knew how to run the website. So I just said, okay, well, I'll get my own Drupal. I'll kick something off. We put out Critical Blast 6 years ago, and it's been, the same things that we did at the trades and maybe a little bit more. It was all different article types. Very first year out, I wanted to do something new. We did the Best of Award. So we had Best of television shows, Best of movies, actors, and I wanted to make sure that comics were a part in that. And I wanted to make sure that it was not just a list that somebody was putting out on Twitter of things. I want to make sure that it was a real something. So we have these. This is the first year we're doing medals.
Cool. I like
this
that,
is-
like an Olympic medal.
Oh,
Yeah, this is printed. This is ink on metal, and this is the
Oh,
proof.
wow.
The backside will have the winner's name and what they were for and such. But first year we had like real trophies, real acrylic trophies with engraving on
Yeah.
it. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but that's expensive. And then the next year, for like the next 5 years, we did these goblets, which were etched on the goblet, and I mailed those out. I was like, okay, that's more affordable for me, but I'm not liking the way they're looking after a while. So I wanted to get something. And we talked with the trophy shop, found a local place. I always do it local if I can. And that's he said, well, we got these things here where we do dye sublimation on the metal here. And I was like, oh yeah, that's affordable.
Awesome.
So
Very
I'm waiting for
cool.
those to come in. And then I guess I got to reach out to Drunk 3PO because he's the only person I know who can put me in touch with Gina Carano. She's got an award, and I've got to get it out to her. But
Awesome.
we just, we call up the PR people. Yeah, normally that's what we do. We're like, okay, this television show, you call the studio, you ask for the PR department, you say, hey, you won this award. Where do you want me to send it and to who?
Yeah.
I can't really call up Lucasfilm now for Gina Carano. So
Yeah.
I've got to make a different
Be a
connection.
little tough. So how many do you have, like a whole staff that works on this site, or is it just you primarily?
It's revolving.
Okay.
Sometimes it's more just me, but lately we've had some more influx. We've got Damascus Mincemeyer,
good.
who's sort of our horror expert. Dennis
cool.
Russo is always on hand for music reviews and such. He's he's an audiophile with an amazing sound system and phonograph. Stephen Miller is with us on and off right now. He had some COVID difficulties, job difficulties. And he was also one of our first writers that we published as a book. We're a publishing house now too.
Very cool.
Cool.
Very cool.
So
Johnny, it reminds me a little bit of you with movie preview. You have like a small staff, and you guys kind of keep that alive.
It was never meant to be anything big. It was just a matter of like, honestly, movie previews started as I wanted to stop bombarding my personal profile with like movie stuff and like trailers.
Yep.
And then I was like, well, where can I put all this stuff?
Yeah.
And I was like, let me start a page. And then that page grew. And then people jumped aboard. And like you said, is revolving. People jumped off. We've reformatted. We got deleted by Facebook randomly one night, and we had to start from scratch again. It was just one of those. But like you said, and this is a lot of the same. And I love this. Like everything you've built here, I love. This is awesome.
So yeah, the website is the nut of everything, or at least it's supposed to be. I mean, it's criticalblast.com,
And then
we branched out everything
YouTube.
from there. We got the suddenly we have a channel. We actually have a Facebook channel too. It's Critical Blast on every social media that's out there.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Nice.
I'll put some of it in the description here so people can take a look and see subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, you know what? Even if you don't want to subscribe, if you just go to the channel tonight and go to the videos and say view all, just mute it, minimize it, leave your computer running all night long.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yeah,
Just go to
absolutely.
sleep.
It's getting close to getting monetized. Gotta help them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the other thing I wanted to get into is this logistics thing you were telling me about.
Yes.
Yeah, so
This
I know
was
that's
very interesting. I'd love to hear more. Yeah.
as well, and I'm sure some people in our audience will be interested in this as well.
Well, that spun out of the YouTube channel. Again, it's like Critical Blast at the top, and then we got Critical Blast on the YouTube, the podcast, and we've got Critical Blast Publishing, where we're putting books out, and now we've got logistics. It's this growing branded tree. But through the YouTube, I'm always talking with people like you, Keith, and you come on, you told me about the Mighty Mascots, and that like about 3/4 of the way through the show, I'm trying to find ways to spend your money on other cool things to make Mighty Mascots cool. I'm like, hey, that should be a sticker, or hey, these should be posters. You should go here and get this done. You should go there and get that done. You should go talk to this guy about 3D prints of characters. And and I'd be talking to people from the UK and Australia. They're like, yeah, it's excuse me, yes, it's a very fine book. No.
I was just going to say real quick, RJ, I could probably use a referral for mugs if you know anybody.
I can find somebody, but if you really want to know about mugs, I know a guy who has done this.
There you go. I should talk to Don about that
Yeah,
one.
you should.
You
He's
should
going
talk
to be
to-
coming on soon, Johnny. Sometime this
Awesome.
month, he'll be back with Bill. You can ask him that night.
Nice. Yeah, mugs are going to be a part of the Surrounded by Death Kickstarter that's in the works.
Oh,
so.
sweet. Yeah, you got to have it, man. You gotta have,
I got to find something. Well, it goes with the coffee, right? So
yeah,
I
you
gotta
got to
do
do
something
it.
in that regard.
The coffee burns your hand if you don't have a,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't just sip from like a stream of the brew. You know what I mean?
It's too hot when it's coming out of the thing to do the wheezing thing.
Yeah.
You gotta cool in the mug.
Like when you smoke too much weed and you got to drink from the faucet because
Yes.
a glass won't do. Jeff Homan from the Toking Dead, he knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I saw him make an appearance earlier.
Yeah, he jumped in. He criticized my Chris Pratt.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So fuck him.
Well, anyway.
Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
So I want to
Sorry
hear
for my
more about this
FOMO.
logistics stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
well,
Sorry.
it was, UK, Australia, Canada, they'd be talking about, it's a great book, but we don't sell it. It's hard to ship to America. And, that's where the biggest audience is. And, I've been IT for 30 years, and many of the companies work for in logistics. And I started to say, what you need to do? You need to, and like this little me popped up on my left shoulder and just punched me in the jaw and said, you need to shut the fuck up and do this yourself. You can finally get into this game somewhere.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. So,
and I did, and I've worked out a business plan. And anybody who's interested in it, I set up a private stream. We chatted up, and I throw the Excel spreadsheet up on the thing, and it's down to the pennies. I was like, okay, this is what I'm charging you. This is what it costs. But the overall nut of it is that it's a lot cheaper to send 100 books in one box than it is to send 100 books in 100 boxes.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. They drop ship the books here, and we figure out what that's going to cost. And then we divide it by 100 books, and it kind of scales. I say, okay, take that number, put it to the side, and then I say, here's what your book weighs. Here's how you want to mail it. It's going to go in a bag with a board in a Gemini mailer, and then it's going to get tape on it. It's going to get a label on it. Yes, I charge for the tape. I figure out exactly what 3 inches of tape is going to be or 6 inches. Well, because otherwise, you're like, I expected to make $100 off of this, and I made 25, and I don't know what happened. I got 17 rolls of empty tape over here to the side.
Right. And it's costing you money, and
Your taxes must be meticulous.
Yes. Yes. Well, I was always told, take care of the pennies, and the dollars will take care of themselves.
That's true.
So
that's very
what
true.
you're kind of saying, and correct me if I'm wrong. So you kind of, in a way, become sort of a fulfillment center for overseas Indiegogos and Kickstarters and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and in fact,
Love that.
I set it up because of the overseas people, but it turns out that there's a lot of people here domestically that find out that their time is better spent creating books than it is stuffing boxes.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm like, I can do it for you. It's not cheaper to use me than it is to do it yourself, but it does free up your time. So we've got 3 people right now, and I got one of them up here. The reason I got that up here is because y'all got this before, right? You've seen these.
Yeah,
the Gemini mailer.
Gemini.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, what I'm going to do for the first 5 clients we've got, and we've already got 3, is that I'm going to put it in Gemini mailer, and then it's going to go in a bag like this.
Okay.
And then sealed shut, and then the label will go back here. And on the other side of the bag, these are ours that we printed. But if you've seen that graphic,
so you get that extra layer of protection on top.
Extra layer of protection, and also the image when the company man ships out. This is what's going to be on the bag, staring you in the face when it lands on your porch. So you're going to know what you got. And the same for the Embrace, and the same for Red Eyes, number 2. So
okay. And so you're saving them money, but you're also making a little money off of all this work that you're doing.
Yeah, I make a little bit.
The investment is worth the presentation alone, because you know what? There's a big difference when you get a Kickstarter that's basically just a brown envelope versus getting a nice packaging or the cover of the book on the exterior or things like that. And
I'm not charging the people for the first 5 customers. I'm not charging them because I'm trying to drum up business. I think when you get a bag that looks like this, you're going to get all kinds of unboxing videos and unbagging videos, and it's going to
Yeah,
help them out
right.
more.
It's
Now-
like all advertisement for
Now,
you.
after the first 5, this is an optional thing. If you want this is what the bags cost.
Right. Yeah. Like
You
get,
got to
like,
give them the first taste for free, right? And
Yeah.
then you hook them.
Because the bags basically eat up my entire profit.
Oh yeah. I can
Unless I
imagine.
catch them on a sale, which, is like easy to do because they do it so often.
Right, but if like say like a big campaign has really good funding, that might be something that could be added in as like a perk, or
you don't
like,
even have to have the funding, Keith, because the thing is, we sit down and consult with the campaign before they kick off.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not a matter of saying, hey, I've made enough to afford RJ's service here. It's I want to have a campaign. Let's sit down and figure out what the numbers be. What's it going to cost to ship the books to him per unit?
Okay.
What's it going to cost to have them mailed in the U.S. per unit? Add those two numbers together, round it up to the next dollar or the dollar after that, and that is now what you put in your shipping cost on Indiegogo.
Yeah, that's perfect. That, and you can build it into your budget for your campaign. Like
Exactly,
which is much.
Which is why the
book.
company men, if you go to their Indiegogo and you say, yes, send one over here to the U.S., it's not going to cost you $25. It's costing you $12 because we calculated that all in advance.
Wow.
So it's a flat rate shipping, but it covers both country or both or whatever.
We got 12. Well, it's always going to be unique to whoever's shipping what, because their currencies are different. Currencies change all the time. The weight of the book. I sit down with them and say, tell me about your book. And they do like we do on the shows. Like, well, it's about a guy who does this and he's got that. I'm like, no. How many pages is it? What does it weigh?
You gotta really break it down to all that kind of stuff.
I want the generic version. Just explain the object, not the contents.
Yeah, I think that's one of the rookie mistakes at first for a lot of creators is that they go heavy ham in producing a book, right? And then they don't think of the printing costs or the shipping costs or
exactly.
Well, I think we were talking a little bit before the show and about another book where it's like, wow, every page is on really heavy card stock here. It's a premium book, but that's going to cost a lot more to ship, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
So I sit there and I tell them, I say, how many pages is your book going to be after you've added all your stretch goals? Assume you hit them all. And then, I've got a Gemini mailer, I've got a bag, I've got a board, I've got a label, I've got tape, and I got a book that's similar size to what they just described. And I said, here we go, slip it in here, put it all together, set it on the postal scale. This is what your package should weigh. And this is what it's going to cost to send that. So work with this. And I always tell them to round up. No one cares if you make a couple of pennies on each unit per shipping. It's the, if you're raping them, that's when they get upset.
Yeah. There's like that fine balance. So how long have you been doing this?
Critical Blast Logistics?
Yeah.
We have not yet shipped one because we've worked with 3 customers, but they haven't finished their campaigns yet.
Yeah, because I'm curious. Yeah, see, that's what I wanted to. Do they have any data yet as far as like, is this helping their sales? Like, are they seeing an increase in like U.S. sales?
I don't know.
That would be
because I don't think
interesting to see.
Kemosabe's had a book before this one, so we have to compare it to another Australian book to see. And
so that's data that'll probably come with time, I think. As the logistics grows. But I like that. It's a great idea. Now that would be mostly for overseas stuff, right? Not from the US to overseas.
Well, that's the other part of it, because obviously, I have to, if I ship from here to overseas, then that's still, the overseas ship rate.
Okay.
And that was a block for me for a while, until I finally figured out I'm going to do a pilot program with the UK, because I figured out a plan to basically get things to the UK for $15 per unit.
Really? Not bad.
It's going to require really some help. I've been on the phone with Royal Mail, and I was like, look, I want to print labels here in the US from a UK address to a UK address. And then they're like, okay, you can do that, because it's a printer, you're printing anywhere in the world. But the biggest problem is that as soon as you print that label, the sand starts running through the hourglass, and that label is no good after 7 days. And they do that for security and
Yeah, I've
So-
seen that in my job too. Like I do,
Yeah.
we do a lot of shipping with like UPS and stuff. And when you go online to create the label, I think it only lasts for like a week or something.
Exactly. So what I've got to do is, when it comes time to do one where I've got a batch of books that go to the UK, I've got to say, okay, this is the time. Everything's done. They're all in their Gemini mailers. Print the labels, and then it's slap, 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 slap. Put those in another outer box. Ship that box to the UK on a 2-day rush trip, which is like $500 and something.
Yeah. And try
and
to
then-
get it there before that 7 days runs
Exactly.
out. Kind of thing.
Get it there in
Okay.
2 days. Have my agent on the other end basically go to the post office, pick up the box, open the box, dump the box, and go home.
Oh wow, it's amazing. I mean,
It's pretty
it's
awesome.
Like,
I was about to say,
it's like
a
mail
lot-
hacks,
yeah, a lot of it hinges on that other guy, right? But as long
Yeah.
as you can trust them, that's
Well-
gravy,
Well, I'm going to pay them, so I would hope that I
Right.
would trust them. I mean,
Sure.
$50 US to go to the post office and back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
not
don't even have
bad.
to. You don't even have
Not
to
bad,
get it
yeah.
from your home. It's going to be waiting for you at the post office.
Yep. You just got to
Yeah,
open,
so-
dump, and you're on your way.
Go
like I
cash your check.
imagine I imagine you'll see probably more customers from overseas rather than the US coming to you, but still it's good option though,
Well,
especially if you have a big campaign and you have a lot of overseas shipping.
Yeah, Red Eyes is coming from Switzerland, but the Embrace is in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
So that's now. It's kind of funny. They're partnered with. They're doing a collaboration with Perfect 10, which is it's in Europe. I forget which country specifically.
Okay.
But I know that their shipping on that one is outrageous, and they were both like, "Oh God, I wish we'd have talked to you first before we did
Oh,
this." 'Cause
wow.
the shipping's like $25, and it's killing it for me.
Yeah,
If I
no,
wanted to
that's
buy a Perfect 10, look great. It looked like J. Scott Campbell.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Especially if you're spending that much on shipping, how you can get how many comics with that, over here,
Yeah.
But no, that's awesome. A great idea.
Really,
you
yeah,
know, like-
great idea. Great way to enable creators, allowing them to, kind of broaden their horizons and expand their audiences. Fantastic work. Yeah, you're doing the good work here, which is
Well, that's what I'm
awesome.
trying to do. And the whole reason to do it before the campaign kicks off is because, like I just said, I look at the campaign, I put it in my inbox, the shipping gets added, I nope right out. So it's an impediment. And if we can figure out that shipping cost before you launch, we've removed that impediment. You have an American potential customer who clicks on your thing, says, yeah, it's going to cost it. Oh, that's not so bad. And then they buy it. And,
Right, yeah.
They
I
complete the
agree.
sale.
Like when I've ordered a couple things from overseas, and I've gotten to the shipping, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
So, and sometimes I'll do it, and sometimes I won't. The book's got to be really something I want to read, So yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely an impediment to buyers, So yeah, if you're out there, you are in the UK or overseas, and you're hearing this, definitely reach out to RJ, and I can see why you would do it beforehand, because you want to not be blindsided with
Yeah, you want to get those numbers into your campaign.
right. Here's my anvil perk that I've added to.
Yes, and that's the other thing that
Everybody gets an anvil.
Yeah.
I sit down, I show them okay, here's the media rates for everything. This is just the book and all that, and they're like, well, I want to do a metal print. I was like, okay, here's the priority page. Well, wait, why are we on priority? Media is cheaper. I'm like, yeah, but you're not shipping media anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you go into another level. Yeah. So
I mean, it's already at the point where Donald DeLay is getting books shipped back to him because the post office says media doesn't cover comic books, and then you've got to go in and explain to them that the regulation says comic books. In the passage that says that you can't send anything that has paid for advertisements, and comic books used to. These don't. These are graphic novels. They're not. You're required to follow the same regulations.
Yeah, you gotta go around that whole thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a loophole for it though.
It always is, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And that's I've had people on the show that were saying, hey, I'm one of my tiers is I'm selling advertisements. Something I'm like, Are you planning to ship media? Well, yeah. No, you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Or you're going to get caught at some point.
And I was just going to say, that's the value of employing you, RJ, is that you have this knowledge. You have the, the ins and outs, right?
I've shipped a lot of stuff.
Right. Yeah. So,
and honestly,
pays for itself.
Media is cheap, but one of the things about priority that I don't think a lot of people know, they know it now because I'm saying it all the time on my shows. So, there's 3 people out there who know this because I so many people I have regularly watching the show. But priority mail comes built in with $50 of insurance.
Okay.
So that's no extra spent on that. So, if you're buying a $30 book and it gets run over by a, forklift, because we've seen it happen, then it's insured. Media, you're taking a comic book and you're giving it to the post office. They're throwing it in this big cloth covered bin on wheels. This looks like a giant, a miniature of the Jawa sandcrawler.
Okay.
And anything that's media is going to go in that. So your 2.5 ounce comic book is going to go in there. And the next thing that's like a 70-pound box of encyclopedias is going to get thrown in there. And it's just a jumble. Now, it's less of a problem, I guess, for, your Ethan Van Skyvers and your other people who are putting out hundreds and hundreds of books because they're filling the whole cart at one time.
Yeah.
But, if you go to the post office with, hey, I got these 5 things to mail, they throw them in there. If you put a priority, that doesn't happen to them.
Yeah, and the priority is, I know it's much cheaper than like a UPS ground and FedEx and all that stuff.
And they've got flat rate boxes, so your weight it's taken out of the equation. As long as you got dimensions where it's going to fit in this flat rate box, you can ship it for $12. And that doesn't matter whether you're selling 3 graphic novels or a graphic novel and a gold brick. Right,
exactly, and that's why they want to consult you so you can get those prices in line with their campaign beforehand. Because a lot of creators don't know that stuff, unless they're working, like they're doing shipping normally. Most of them aren't, so
they find it out by the 4th campaign that they do.
Yeah,
or the 3rd,
exactly. How come they're not making any profit off these campaigns? And it's all going out the door with shipping.
What I wish somebody would do is, and I know that people have done the "here's how you make a campaign" video thing. Yeah. But it's literally, here's how you make a campaign, and you sit there for 2 hours and watch this thing. Somebody needs to make like a whole series of bite-sized videos. How do I make an add-on? Yeah. How do I create a tier? And it's just that thing focused in the video. And you would get like tons of repeat watches on that thing from, people who don't even do comic books, but they're doing a Kickstarter of some kind, or they're doing an Indiegogo. Yeah. Maybe they're making a hairdryer.
Maybe I'll steal that.
Yeah. Piecemeal instruction is invaluable.
People like the piecemeal stuff.
Because that's what they're going to Google. They're going to Google, how do I do? And if you have a video that says, how do I, and it matches, you're going to get a quick hit.
And it's like the stuff you think of, it's like, it's easy and makes sense to me, but it doesn't make sense to some people. You know what I mean? Like,
so if they've never done it, they're, first of all, they don't know.
Yeah, they're like, what does this mean? Like, I don't even know. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Between an add-on and a perk and a stretch goal.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I think that's something that could be a cool, useful tool for people.
That won't be me. I
don't. But anyways, all right, great. We're actually been on for an hour and 20 minutes already.
It flew right by. Yeah, man.
Flew right by. So we usually go about an hour or so. So the conversation was going in such a good direction.
We stole a little extra this one.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
I'm good with it. I can keep going. I did 12 hours last Saturday. What are you talking about?
Oh wow.
So RJ, is there besides the website, besides your author page, besides the logistics in the YouTube channel, is there anything else you wanted to? Any links you want to share out to people, or have people check out? Or
obviously I want people to check out The Company Men, Red Eyes 2, and The Embrace on Indiegogo, because I'll
have to check those out. Those look like pretty cool campaigns.
They're my peeps.
Nice.
The only other one that I would share out, and I'll put it in the private chat here, is I've been trying to push this particular Indiegogo for this guy because I think it's a worthwhile project. It's a great looking all ages book.
Let me take a look here.
Yeah, you look at it for yourself first, because I could send you porn.
you imagine? Oh yeah, this does look cool. Let me share this. Oh yeah, wow! Look at this. I like the artwork already. It's very a storybook.
And that artwork on the cover is indicative of the artwork interior.
Really?
The lady who's done the work.
Some pictures here too. Oh wow, this looks really cool.
Very cool.
And this is in Ireland, huh?
Love that watercolor there. Yeah,
that's a tier. You can get that watercolor of her artwork.
I like this artwork a lot.
This is a world that's it's very much like a Saturday morning cartoon from back in the day.
Okay.
It's a world where they're ruled by an evil king, and if you have any kind of magic, you have to audition before the king, and he's looking for good in you. And if he finds any, he puts you in the dungeon because the last thing he wants is competition in the future where you might try to dethrone him. He sees good in Glenn, who's a witch, and he puts her in the dungeon, and that's where she meets all these other characters who've been dungeonified, and she brings them together into a team to escape and overthrow the king.
Oh wow!
So you
love it.
A vampire boy band member.
This looks awesome. Now I see that it's in Ireland. How is their shipping?
He kicked it off before he talked to me.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look at it.
It's not bad. I'll tell you, it's not bad because I backed it. So
okay, all right. Well, there you go. That's
nice.
An endorsement. And the artwork is really nice. I'll have
gorgeous artwork.
Yeah, I'll have to check this campaign out. It looks fantastic.
It really looks like Mattel should be making dolls of her. And other stuff.
Wow, and has he been going? How many days has he been going? 30 days or 60 days?
60 days. He did a 60-day campaign. So this is the last 27 days.
That's awesome. He's almost there.
Yeah, he's on track to do it. Yeah. But the tracking map I saw says like the day before it closes, he crosses the line. I'm like, no, that's too shaving close.
This looks like a cartoon I would watch.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, this is very cool.
That'll hit. That's definitely gonna hit. It's too good not to. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks. I'll definitely check that out. That
I agree that it's too good not to hit. But every time I show it to somebody, like, I've never seen this one. I'm like,
yeah. Well, that's the weird Indiegogo trending like campaign thing, isn't it? Like, unless you're like, I noticed that happened with mine a lot. Like, unless you're raking in backers like an hourly basis, you're not even showing on that page.
You've got to risk having it funded at 5 cents so that you can have the thousands of % fulfilled with the first order, and then trick the algorithm into
that's how you do. But yeah, that looks great. And so, in anything else that you wanted to share, or anything else you wanted to check out, or
that's it, man. I mean, if anybody wants to promote their book, or if they want to learn more about the logistics program, we are on Twitter. That's where we get most of our leads. Our DMs are open at Critical Blast. You can always hit the feedback page on our website. But to be honest with you, the emailers tend to spam out a lot of stuff that comes from the feedback because if you have a feedback page, it gets used enough by spammers. Your mailer says, okay, anything from here, wipe it out.
Yeah. Johnny, hit them up when you start your campaign.
Yeah,
I was channel to go launch. Get some exposure on it.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that Sartana might benefit from having an international option for backing because it does have a built-in audience in Europe already, and even parts of Germany with some of the actors that were in the old films. So. I think, and thank you for coming on. You were very enlightening. Even just the work that you've done with the novels, the work that you've done on Critical Blast, the stuff that you're doing to help enable independent comic creators. It's all very admirable and noble.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service to independent comics, which is again fantastic. We if we can all have a resource like R.J. Carter. I think we'd all be in better shape.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, independent comics is just something that, like I said, when I found them, I loved them. And, today is, of course, Wednesday, which means it's DCBD here. I go to the comic shop and I hit the $1 comic book day.
Nice. What you have. Let me see.
I pick up, this is what I got today. Nice. Silverlines, Mutants, and Misfits, Southern Nights, some more Southern Nights, and a Nexus
nice.
Legends.
Nexus,
love Nexus.
Yeah, Wednesday is a comic book day. That's
exactly.
And there's
Just one
nothing
of
on the
those
news
things.
shelf that I want anymore. So
Yeah, right. I hear that. Johnny, anything you got to promote before we go? Or
No, I'm just going to
mention?
once again thank RJ for coming on. We greatly appreciate it. We'd love to have you back for the future. When I come to do my campaign, I'll definitely probably be hitting you up for a little bit of insight or possibly your services.
bring it.
Yeah, absolutely. I also shout out to Sophia Saturn on Kickstarter. Check that out. Congratulations to Jared Brown. Congratulations to John Celestri for both their Kickstarters hitting. And the Choking Dead guys, love them. Smoke some weed, guys.
Awesome. And for me, just a campaign update. All the books, Mighty Mascots 4, 5, and 6 were sent out to the printer, I believe, this week by Peter.
Cool.
Nice.
Should have them in hand by May. So we'll start fulfilling the campaign then. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And Beard Zerka launches tomorrow. I'm
What
lettering
time?
that book.
Check it out.
What time?
I don't know. I shame on me for not
I'm going to
knowing.
be
I know.
hovering over the enter box because the first 25 people get that sticker, and I'm like, you just
Oh,
try
that's
to make me
right.
number 26.
That's
I'm going
right.
to be
That's
in there.
right.
And I'm going to be getting that Rainbow the Brute cover.
You know that Dawn's on West Coast, so probably won't start until, I don't know, Eastern, maybe noon. I don't know if he said it on his Twitter or not, but I'm sure he been keeping it secret? Do you know, like the starting time at all? Or?
He was asking me the other night because he was my 12th guest on stream on Podcast Palooza Saturday when I started at 10 a.m. and I went through 10:30 p.m. Stream after stream.
Okay,
it was fun.
Wild.
You got a lot of stamina, man. I'm already woozy from this interview.
Yeah.
He was just asking, how a campaign ends, and I said, from what I've seen, if you started at 1 o'clock, it ends at 1 o'clock. It doesn't end the midnight of the day. It's a literal, to the minute count of days.
Right. So you kind of want to plan on that too.
Yeah, and that's exactly why he wanted to know.
Campaign,
because he wanted to plan his, closeout.
I think with Peter, with me and Peter, when I did mine, we launched it at like 6 p.m. That way, 2 hours later, we could do the opening stream on the alternate channel, and that's what we did. And that ended up working out good. So maybe Don could do something like that, And who knows? If I hear it, if I see him say anything, I'll tweet at you just so you know.
I've got my money ready. My wallet is jumping, and I want to get my Beard Zerker.
Awesome, yeah.
Awesome.
I can tell you from the few pages I've lettered already, it's going to be pretty funny. So
yeah,
especially if you're a Bill and Ted fan, because that's the inspiration for it.
Whoa.
So.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was just going to say one more thing. Big thank you to Amy for keeping up the links in the chat.
Yeah,
the promotions in the chat room. Thank you, Amy.
And I hope Amy's letting you play with that Joker figure.
Yes. Yes. She's a little bit, like I got to fight her for it, but that's All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. I think we're back again next Wednesday, Johnny.
Next
right?
Wednesday night, yeah. At least we don't have a twofer.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, we might though with Don coming. I'll have to figure out when we'll slot him in. Probably in the end of the month or something. But
yep.
All right. Yeah. So all right. Till next week. We'll talk to you guys later.
Yep.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Good night. Yep.